2020 was the year I officially decided to get into Mobile Suit Gundam, kicking it off with none other than the classic 1979 anime of the same name. As what I dubbed my Year of Gundam progressed, I'd go on to continue Universal Century with Zeta Gundam, and even the controversial Double Zeta, which I nonetheless enjoyed. Then, to properly celebrate my commitment to the series, I settled on watching the iconic 1988 film Char's Counterattack on my birthday, and as a first-time viewer, it was quite the experience. Now, I do have a couple of criticisms of the movie. I think the pacing could have been better, and a good amount of the screen time was dedicated to characters I don't really feel added to the overall narrative. That said, I think the movie represents something much greater than that. After all, it is the grand finale to the Amuro Ray and Char Aznable saga, and it was every bit the spectacle I'd hoped it'd be, in no small measure thanks to the epic showdown between the new Gundam and the Sazabi. Ask a Gundam fan what their favorite mobile suit is, and I can guarantee you many would have the new Gundam at least in their top 5. It's a mobile suit that is nearly as emblematic of the franchise as the Granddaddy Gundam, though whereas that one is more recognizable for its simplicity, finding itself on the road to obsolescence by the end of the 1-year war. The RX-93 Nu Gundam feels like the culmination of advancements in mobile suit engineering by that point. It's sleeker and more mature design-wise, but most importantly, with the implementation of the Saikamu technology, it outclasses its predecessors in combat capabilities, making for the natural final evolution of Amuro's mobile suits and the perfect embodiment of the experiences he's accumulated as a pilot. In a way, for me, what the new Gundam is to the Granddaddy is like what X is to Mega Man, or what Tom 3.0 is to the original, for those of you old enough to remember that storyline. And so as far as us hobbyists are concerned, where does it stand in terms of off-screen representation? Well, starting off with Gunpla, we got the high grade, the real grade, the master grade Verka, SDs, the newly released entry grade, only really lacking in what I imagine would be an absolutely colossal perfect grade. Then for figures, there's the Gundam Universe, the Robot Damashi, and the boy I should really reconsider my spending habits metal structure, which happens to be currently the only 1/60 scale new Gundam by Bandai. We also got the Formania bust, which could likewise serve as a great centerpiece for new fanatics. Needless to say, Bandai are well aware of the mobile suit's popularity, and if that's not enough, late last year they finished erecting a 1/1 scale moving new Gundam statue in Fukuoka with a new color scheme and debuting its new weapon, the long-range fin funnel, which I think is really cool but realistically was designed more as a convenient way to keep the statue propped up. However, unlike the Yokohama moving Gundam that was built the year before, the RX-93 FF isn't entirely a take on the new Gundam we haven't seen before. In fact, the statue appears to have taken direct inspiration from the Real Grade Nu Gundam model kit, and while I couldn't find a source to confirm it, the design program is pretty much identical. Whichever was planned first is something I don't have the answer to, though what I can say is that the RG Nu Gundam is a really cool kit, and if Bandai did decide to make a life-size statue based on it, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that makes for a decent enough segue for this review. Hello everyone, Gundam May Cry here, and this time we are going to be looking at the RG 1144th scale Nu Gundam, released in 2019 for 4,200 yen. To be precise, this one is actually from the limited release fin funnel effects set, which costs a bit more than the standard release, but as I mentioned in the unboxing, the kit and its accessories are the same. The only thing that's added are optional clear display parts. While I won't be counting them towards my scoring, I'll still briefly cover them at the end of the accessories and extras portion, for anyone that wants to see the extra content. Speaking of which, I guess it's about time to cut the preamble and get right into the review, evaluating the kit based on 5 categories: build, aesthetics, presentation, accessories and extras, and articulation. At the end, I'll give each of the areas a letter score between A through F, and hopefully by then I've given you all the info you need to decide whether you want this kit. Let's find out if this new Gundam really isn't just for show. One more quick thing. I know I haven't been staying on top of videos, but if you enjoy what you see in spite of that, consider dropping me a tip on Ko-Fi. Thanks. Now back to the program. Okay, kicking things off with the build, here is just the mobile suit itself when it's all put together. You'll notice there's a lot going on here, maybe even more so if you've never built Gunpla before, which is why I was pleasantly surprised by just how beginner friendly it is. There are quite a lot of parts, some of them on the smaller and or delicate side, which is expected of a real grade, but the new Gundam is also fairly sizable for an RG, and I think Bandai does a terrific job simplifying the build process. For starters, something that can be a pace breaker is having to constantly jump between runners, forcing you to take a moment to set one down and exchange it with another. In the case of the inner frame, Bandai thankfully cuts down on this by dedicating entire sections to maybe one or two runners of their own. By the time I finished the legs, it was honestly satisfying to see that I'd already almost cleared one of the larger ones. When it comes to the actual construction then, I was also really impressed with the overall ease of assembly. Seriously, I don't think I encountered any real troubles while building the kit. None of the fits felt either too tight or too loose. Nothing felt at risk of breaking. Everything snapped together perfectly, and no more is that evident than in the finished product. Here is the RG Nu Gundam with its armor partially stripped to give you a look at what's going on under the hood. I mentioned in the RG Tallgeese review that often real grade interframes would tend to emphasize function over form, and at times the resulting product would be somewhat lacking in both areas. However, if that was the situation here as well, I wouldn't find it worth showing off. In fact, what we get here more closely resembles a master grade interframe than many of the ones from RGs that preceded it. Hell, I'd go so far as to say it captures the look even more so than the interframe of the MG Origin Gundam I previously reviewed. There are no advanced MS joints either. It's all polystyrene molded together geniusly to replicate the physique of the mobile suit, giving it such a robust feel upon completion. Now the first real grade I built was the Gundam Mark II, a not so distant ancestor of the new. All things considered, it's a good kit. It's a staple among older real grades and did some pretty exciting things for the time. However, it still uses that wiry pre-built interframe, and while far from the worst offender, its rubbery material gives it a squishy quality that just doesn't make it feel that good to pose nor help with stability. If Bandai ever decided to do RG 2.0s, I'd put this as my number one contender because I really would want to see this get the new Gundam treatment. While I'm not going to touch on aesthetics here, it's pretty clear Bandai wanted the looks of the inner frame to shine through as much as the build strength, and they definitely succeeded. It's sturdy and at the same time very sexy. Just know some of the armor parts, particularly on the legs, snap onto the frame very securely and might be hard to disassemble, so if you want to paint the kit, you should probably consider how you'd want to display it long term. While I'm on that, another suggestion I have is not to play around with the knee gimmick until the legs are fully assembled. It can be tempting to see that sliding piston in action, but when I bent the knee a couple of times, it suddenly came loose, and I couldn't get it to work as it should. What I think happened was that the pipes overextended out of the cover because all of the armor wasn't on. Since I didn't experience this on the leg I tested after it was fully armored, thankfully I was able to resolve the issue by thickening the part with some school tape, but instead of having to resort to that, I'd avoid taking the risk altogether. Last note about the build is there are 6 fin funnels you have to assemble, and the process can be a bit monotonous since they're all identical. It's nice that a lot of the parts are undergated, just like many other areas of the kit, though it is also for that reason you should take extra care with cleanup, otherwise you may run into fitting issues. All that said, the results are spectacular, so I'm certain you'll have a great time regardless. Now let's move on to the aesthetics. To get an idea of what makes this interpretation of the new Gundam unique, I'll put up this classic illustration of what it looks like from the film. As I've stated before, what I love about the new compared to the Granddaddy, and even the Mark II, is how it feels like Universal Century mobile suit design perfected. In contrast to the RX-78-2's use of bright primary colors which give it a lighthearted appearance, the new Gundam is predominantly white and either a very dark navy blue or a pure black depending on the interpretation. It, to me, not only symbolizes Amuro finally coming to terms with his duty in the morally complicated struggle between Earthnoids and Spacenoids, but it also just looks really sophisticated. Additionally, there's the inclusion of visible features that give it a heightened sense of mobility in space, such as the multiple vents and boosters present on the mobile suit. Although it doesn't have as much going on visually as the anime version of the Mark II, the design comes off much more focused. Rather than being equipped with layers of bulky armor, the new leaves a strong impression with its towering height and dynamic proportions, allowing it to look powerful without sacrificing its simple yet elegant appeal. Of course, there's the HWS version for anyone that prefers their new a lot stockier. The model kit then takes these elements and pushes them even further with the RG line's insane focus on detail and realism. This kit looks gorgeous no matter what angle you look at it from, and I mean it. From top to bottom, the RG Nu is incredibly rich in surface detail, incorporating a multitude of panel lines, tick marks, various geometric forms that make the overall figure more striking. I honestly don't even know how to describe some of these designs. They remind me a bit of cracked ice, in a good way. And showing through it is some of that gorgeous inner frame. Especially dig the addition of those spiky thingies protruding from the shoulders. I want to reiterate that I love this inner frame. While a lot of it is going to be hidden behind armor, Bandai still went through the trouble of sculpting all these intricate mechanical details that are begging to be painted up. Sure, it's only in the one color, unlike the advanced MS inner frames, but I'll gladly take this over a skeleton that looks more like a series of joints than actual mecha internals. Since I mentioned color, one aspect of them I really didn't expect was the handling of the white parts on the mobile suit. At first I thought it was only two tones, a white and a light gray. Only as the parts came together, I then noticed this kit uses two types of gray, a warmer one and a cooler one. The difference is very subtle, so it might not pick up on camera, but they do a great job accentuating the points of interest on the mobile suit without feeling really busy. On the whole, in terms of looks, the kit absolutely knocks it out of the park with its unique RG flair. Now, one complaint I have heard levied at the RG Nu Gundam is its quote-unquote giraffe neck, and yeah, it certainly is on the long side. However, I noticed this is kind of a recurring thing with most RGs I've built, and in this instance, I actually don't mind the extended neck because it helps keep the head visible at different angles. What bugs me a little more is that the ball joint is not at all well hidden, making the head appear as if it's floating, so I would have liked it if they beefed up the neck a bit so that wouldn't be the case. Luckily, at a distance, it's not that apparent. One thing I do wish RG kits brought back is the cutout face and chest vents. It's maybe the only area I like more about the RG Mark II, and I don't know when or why they stopped incorporating it. I'm just sad it didn't make a return here. Okay, let's get down to some size comparisons. To get a sense of scale, here it is behind the HG revive of the retired champ, the RX-78-2, and as you can see, he barely makes it past the Nu's legs. And damn if the difference in grade isn't extremely evident. Next is the Mark II, which is about the same height as the Granddaddy, but it's pretty even with the Nu when it comes to shoulder width. Moving up, the Unicorn in Destroy mode scales much closer, though it's still off by more than a head. And while it's not quite as tall as the average MG, it does present some fierce competition. Oh, and who could forget, here it is next to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Getting into presentation, and as always starting with stickers, there are a total of 3 foil seals used on the head, one's for the eyes, and one's for the front and rear head cameras, all in a nice reflective green. They all go on top of green clear parts, so you don't have to use them if you don't want to. The only other one for the mobile suit is for this chest camera. Unfortunately, there's no clear part for it. I got curious and also threw on a few optional foil seals, like the silver ones for the backpack. Perceptive fans might notice the absence of Amuro's emblem on the left shoulder, and that comes in the form of a peel and stick decal, which I opted to leave off for now so it doesn't peel off during the review. Given that this design is a pretty big departure from the movie version of the Nu Gundam, on-screen accuracy doesn't come into play too much, but since it's also a real grade, the finished product doesn't fall short when compared to the promo material either. Aside from some of the sticker usage I addressed before, everything on the mobile suit is molded in the correct color, and it's all the more impressive to see how much color separation is featured on the parts. You got plenty on the legs with its various lighter tones, exposed inner frame bits, and even some low-profile yellows inside the vents. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the seam lines, or lack thereof, at the same time. I think what makes this feel like more than just a model kit is that it doesn't have a lot of the typical part sandwiching meant to simply replicate the look of a mobile suit. Rather, individual armor plates interlock in a particular way that suggests a sense of functionality. Functionality like this wicked armor separating gimmick that occurs when you bend the knee or pull the foot back. Look, I know there are hobbyists who scoff at the idea of finding quality issues in Gunpla kits, when a lot of them can be ameliorated by putting your own work in, but it's precisely because of out-of-box results like this that Bandai's kits, especially their real grades, are a marvel to behold, and that's something I don't think should be discounted. Moving on, there's some more great part separation on both of the arms and their nice asymmetrical design. One of my favorite areas has to be the back skirts. Though you might not see them too often, the layering of parts back here is seriously crazy. I also forgot to mention how much I love this head sculpt. The front and back side are separated into two tones, and you got loads of little gray details poking through it like the Vulcans and the side vents. The only real color app that's missing is for the insides of the face vents, and those areas don't have much space, so I understand why Bandai left them that way. You could always touch them up with some panel lining to give details like that more depth. As for nub marks, since this kit is mostly undergated, surface nubs are almost a non-issue. On the lighter parts, I honestly struggle to find any indication of where they were cut out. Conversely, gate placement is somewhat more noticeable on the darker parts, and while they're fairly minor, you do get a bit of surface nubbing, like on the backpack, and you can even get some nasty white marks if you accidentally cut the undergates a little too close to the edge. Lastly, there's a few teeny mold lines running down the biceps, the sides of the legs, and the heels, but nothing that'll drive you crazy. Altogether, as far as presentation goes, the RG Nu Gundam is impeccable. Up next are the accessories and extras, and I'm going to split this part into two sections. First, I'll cover everything that comes with the standard release of the RG Nu Gundam, then I'll touch on the add-ons that come with the fin funnel effect set. So let's take a look at the essentials for now. The kit comes with a set of 7 hands, consisting of a pair of widespread open hands, 2 closed fists, 2 weapon holding hands with a pivoting wrist joint. Oh, that's sweet, I wish more 1/144th scale kits had those. And a single right trigger finger hand. For weapons, first we have the Nu Gundam signature beam rifle, sporting the same classy color scheme as the mobile suit. Not really much else going on here if I'm being honest. No moving parts besides this tab you use for storage. However, what it lacks in functions and more than makes up for in looks. The details are sharp, and there's quite a lot of color separation here for something so simple. I particularly like the gray coming through these vent-like details. Seams are also entirely hidden, though there is this one that doesn't want to close all the way for some reason. It's possible you won't have that issue. Anyways, to equip it, you just pop the grip into the tab of the right trigger finger hand, and sandwich the other half of the fingers on top. Another aspect I find interesting about this beam rifle is that, unlike the Granddaddy Gundams, it doesn't have a front grip, showing that the Nu is perfectly capable of using it with one hand. When not in use, you can store it on the Nu's backside by first pulling this armor segment down, then inserting the beam rifle's tab inside. Our second ranged option is the Hyper Bazooka. Again, lots of nice detail. I love all the little rivets on it, and the fact that you can see all the missiles in red inside the ammo container. This section back here is 2 halves, so you do get a fairly noticeable seam. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't remember the sight on the Nu Gundam's bazooka being red, and that's because I didn't use the provided green foil seal. Well, okay, I technically did, but I placed it slightly off-center the first time, and when I lifted it up to readjust it, the sticker just got damaged and ended up looking much worse than before. After some thought, I decided to improvise and went over a leftover foil sticker sheet a couple of times with an art marker I had on me, and yeah, it got the job done. Sure, it's not as nice as an RG sticker, but I think I prefer the color I used. Sorry for getting off track. Getting back to the bazooka, there's another green sticker for the front down here. For moving parts, the barrel can extend out like so, pretty neat. And the grip, which has a slot for the holding hand, can move back and forth. This can be held in either the left or right holding hand, and the grip inserts into the tab the same way as the beam rifle. What I appreciate is this grip doesn't waste any forward movement, and additionally, thanks to the pivoting wrist, you can position the bazooka without any of the typical clunkiness present in other Gunpla bazookas. Finally, to store it, you just pull out this tab on top, and this attaches very conveniently into a slot in a recessed space on the backpack. Moving on to close range weapons, there's the main beam saber, which can be found on the right side of the backpack, stored in this awesome pivoting mechanism that allows for ease of access. The beam saber handle can be removed by simply pulling it out, and to go with it are 2 pink beam blade effects, a longer one and a shorter one. The longer one connects above the guard, whereas the shorter one sticks into the end, both with the blade sides facing towards the guard. Then to equip it, the guard first needs to be flipped up at a perpendicular angle. And what's a bit of a shame is the connection slot is only on one side, and since the weapon is also asymmetrical, it can only be held in the right hand, just like the beam rifle, meaning you can't equip both at the same time. But as I was saying, this connects to the tab in the right holding hand, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is probably my all-time favorite Gundam beam saber. For one, it looks like an actual saber, and two, it's as far as I know the only one of its kind, really driving home Amuro's mastery of the blade. However, if that doesn't work out, the Nu has a spare regular beam saber tucked away in this compartment on the left arm, which you can access by pulling this part up. You get a standard beam saber effect part for it, and the handle can be held in either holding hand. On the defensive side of things is the shield, which is another Amuro custom. It features offensive capabilities too, such as this beam cannon on the rear side, and 4 missiles. Very cool looking, and it definitely sets itself apart from Fetty suits, as, like with everything else I discussed, there's this distinct tailor-made quality to it. It is missing his emblem, which you can apply from the decal sheet, but all around the design of this thing is just gorgeous. Other than that, this mount for the arm can pivot side to side and rotate. Nothing too special there. It clips onto the slots on the left arm specifically, blocking off access to the spare beam saber. That may be a downside for you, however it is film accurate. What I take more issue with is how shallow this connection is. It doesn't hold on all that well, and something tells me it won't take long to wear down. Much as I like how the shield looks, it might be one of this kit's less impressive offerings. And drumroll please, as it's time to get to the star of the show. Okay, no drumroll I guess. The fin funnels are, without a shadow of a doubt, the most recognizable aspect of the Nu Gundam. It's the first time we ever see anything like them in the anime, and if you ask me, no other mobile suit has done them better. Except maybe the High Nu, but that's debatable. So let's get a better look by disconnecting them from the backpack and separating them from each other. The standard release as well as this expanded set both come with a total of 6 fin funnels, and once again they are all 100% identical. That said, the level of quality here is incredible. The parts layering is so good it's hard to believe this is what you get just out of box. Also some great surface detail on the inner side, though I will mention there are a few nub marks on these parts too. Now the fin funnels do incorporate the advanced MS joints, and that's to help them achieve their 3 modes. This is currently what I call the neutral mode, which I assume is when the fin funnels are on standby. The second is this active mode in which they take on that iconic U shape and allow the pilot to control the funnels via brainwaves for powerful beam-based attacks and defensive maneuvers. With the advanced MS joint you can, carefully mind you, bend these sections inward so that both of them are parallel to each other and without any feeling of floppiness at the touch. Then I guess the third would be the inactive mode. I don't know, I haven't found a proper name for these. This involves having the top section, which has the holes on this side, remain in or return to neutral position, then taking the bottom section and folding the funnel onto itself so that it's completely closed and looks like this. Already there's a lot of play factor, though without some kind of display you're most likely gonna keep them mounted on the back for that awesome single wing effect, so here's what you need to know. Flipping over to the inside of the funnels, on the top section here we have slots for linking up on the right and on the left. Flipping these out will reveal a combination of a tab and clip for a mostly secure 2-point connection. The clip can come out of the right side too, however the tab does not, so I'll be doing this right to left. To stay true to the actual mobile suit, this first funnel will be in inactive mode, and the one following it will be in neutral. The connectors can link up at 2 different points. The first puts the funnels at an even height, whereas the second puts the preceding funnel lower. These two are at even height, and every funnel up to the 6th will have the connectors out. Third funnel on the right is inactive, and here we get the first break, placing the 2 before lower. Then the 4th is inactive and at even heights with the 3rd. The 5th is also inactive, but we have another break that puts it a tier higher. And the 6th and final funnel is neutral with no connection sticking out. Surprisingly, this ends the chain with another break, and voila, you have yourself a completed wing. For the record, you don't have to link them up this way, and I haven't found any in-universe explanation as to why they are. For all I know, this arrangement could have been completely arbitrary from Amuro's perspective, but one thing's for sure. The wing motif is awesome, and that lack of uniformity makes it so aesthetically pleasing. In this form, the funnels can also bend in and out like this, and while it looks a little floppy, they hold together well enough. To equip them on the mobile suit, there's a clip on the left side of the backpack that connects at these points on the top funnel section. We want to attach it to the first lowest funnel, and Oh boy, that fell over faster than I expected. I'm starting to see why they ditched the fin funnels for the Fukuoka Gundam. Even for its size, the RG Nu has trouble counterbalancing them on its own, and they can cause the kit to be awkwardly inclined to the left as well. It's unfortunate, though I'm not sure how Bandai could have resolved this besides making the individual funnels lighter in some undesirable way, so I definitely suggest an action base if you want to display the kit with them. Additionally, the funnels can pivot up and down slightly, and rotate on the clip. Be warned, however, this connection isn't the strongest, and I've even had the funnels drop and completely fall apart on me, hence why I said they're only mostly secure. Still, in spite of all that, I love these things, and I'm glad Bandai handled them the way they did. Gonna speed through all this extra stuff since this section has gone on plenty long. First up is the usual Real Grade decal sheet with loads of sticker options. Next is another funnel clip which replaces the beam saber compartment on the right side. This is for the P Bandai exclusive double fin funnel extension set, though alternatively you can still split up the 6 fin funnels you get in this box and use them on both sides. Here's the included action base adapter, and an interesting one at that. I'll touch more on it shortly. And the last item is a 1/144th scale standing pilot figure of Amuro Ray. Oddly, this one feels a bit on the flimsier side, and it was crooked before I'd even cut it out. Then for suit gimmicks, there's a sliding door for the cockpit hatch, and you're even able to lift this part of the torso up and pull it out somewhat. However, sadly, there is no actual seat molded inside, it's just blocked off. The backpack then can open up to lift the verniers, and both sides can move independently. You got a couple more openings like on the sides of the chest, revealing a bit of that inner frame, and this little part that slides out on the front skirts. These ones aren't that great in my opinion, though there are others like the sliding panels for the leg vents, and this separating shoulder armor that's on a hinge, letting you pull it out and move it up and down. I like these ones a lot more. Alright, so that's all of the base content, and all in all you get some pretty exciting stuff out of just the standard release. I'm now going to talk about the fin funnel effect set add-on, so feel free to jump right into Articulation if you're not interested. I've said in the unboxing there isn't anything unique here, so I'm just going to keep it kinda broad. There are a total of 3 action-based pedestals giving you multiple spots to connect the effect parts to, and you get the typical action-based forerunner to build a single arm to hold the kit. The base adapter goes on the tip of the arm in the usual base adapter way, with the sort of head facing this direction, and to mount the mobile suit, you actually first have to remove the backpack. This part on the rear side of the backpack attaches to the clip on the adapter, and once that's secure, just pop the MS back on. Because the Nu Gundam is so large, you might have to fiddle around with the arm to get it into a good position. I suggest not having the kit lunge out too much, otherwise its weight could result in something falling over or snapping. The adapter has a resting spot for the Bazooka too when it's stored, however its size causes it to clash with the arm, putting it at an awkward angle. Fortunately, you don't have a sag issue with the fin funnels since it's the backpack being held up, though if you have this set, you probably won't be displaying the kit this way anyways. There are 6 jet effect parts to build for each fin funnel, and are the same ones found in the Figurized jet effect set. They're molded in this slightly matte ABS plastic that feels really nice, and consists of 3 parts: a tail, a connector, and a flash. The tail has 2 holes for ball joint connections, meaning you can combine 2 tails together, but that looks a bit weird and leaves you down 1 jet effect. To display them in flight, you get a whole bunch of arms and connectors. The arms have a ring on one end and a peg on the other, both compatible with 3mm connections. You can link multiple arms together, and there's also a shorter connector with more 3mm holes. Not gonna dive deep into the possibilities, but hopefully this gives you a good idea. Attaching the jet effects requires these ball joint connectors, of which you get 6 of, and you can plug them into any 3mm hole. Depending on your arrangement of the parts, you can get the jet effects into some interesting angles. The arms can then plug into the small stand to connect them into the action-based pedestal. You can plug them in directly too, but I think the stand offers more stability with parts turning in multiple directions. You can connect them to the arms of the action base too if you're feeling creative. Finally, the fin funnels attach to the jet effect parts using the plus-shaped connection on the back, and they hold on as well as I expected. Not terrible, not amazing either. They're quite heavy, more so now with the jet effects attached, so I wouldn't go too crazy with the arms, although their ABS material does make them pretty durable. In my opinion, it's a pretty neat set. I don't have any major complaints with the add-ons themselves, I just wish the base adapter that came with the kit was a little better. I really wanted this expansion because seeing the fin funnels in action in CCA for the first time was freaking amazing, and I'm just happy to be able to recreate that with this version of the new Gundam. But it's also not like an absolute must-have. I'm sure an Action Base 4 and 1 jet effects set would be just fine if this is a bit too much. As it is, I'm still trying to figure out where I'd even put this. At last, we arrive at the Articulation. With how much this kit packs in, I do apologize if I missed something. And I'll also be taking off the backpack so it doesn't get in the way. Going from the top, the head is on a fairly simple double ball joint that goes into the neck. And while it's not the most appealing, the exposed joint allows for some extreme range of movement. It can look up this much, go down that much, and you get full rotation. Additionally, the neck gives some great joystick motion, as well as some rocking back and forth. Okay, so I actually just found out about this, but if you pull the neck far enough back, you're able to actually raise this section right here up. I can't believe I didn't even know about that. That is super neat. Man, I really like this kit. Okay, so this is really cool. At first glance, it doesn't seem like the torso has much in the way of an ab crunch. However, you're actually able to lift the top of the waist section of it up as it's connected to the bottom via folding hinge. Doing so unlocks some insane bends towards the front and back. This is it to the front. This is it to the back. Look at that, that's some JoJo tier posability. And if that's not enough, the top half of the waist can even bend laterally. Though only if it's raised, otherwise there's less clearance. Then you got the full 360 spin at the waist connection. Would not want to try this with the fin funnels equipped. Onto the arms, the shoulder armor can move somewhat independently. They've got a little bit of swivel and can be lifted up pretty much all the way. Because of that, the lateral raise for the arm can go about as far up too. Good enough to achieve a last shooting pose, though be careful as the shoulder armor can clash with the V-fin. In fact, I imagine the body armor was designed this way so that it wouldn't happen, as the inner frame doesn't have anything to prevent a full vertical raise. That's perhaps a modification route you might want to go down. And if you don't, you are able to swing the arms out to the back using this hidden double joint, giving you some more room to lift it up. And of course, you'll notice there's another joint here that gives you some movement to the front. It can be hard not to unintentionally move both joints at the same time, but in general, I think this is fantastic engineering. Moving on, the arms can do a full 360 all the way around. There is your full bicep swivel. A double jointed, not quite full bend at the elbow because of the design. However, it makes up for that with this flexing cuff section. Dang, they really thought of everything. And for hands, there's flexion and rotation. Traveling down, the same place you store the rifle, there's this sort of locking mechanism for the waist section, and when you lift it up, you're able to tilt it along with the upper body forward, and you can keep it in place, pushing the flap down again. I believe this could be useful for more dynamic flying poses. Furthermore, doing so will also net you some side-to-side pivot. Front skirts are on ball joints, letting them move up and out of the way. Side skirts are on ball joints too, and you can do the same. You can even push both aside to give clearance for the legs. Back skirts are on pegs and only raise somewhat. As for the kick out to the front, there it is with the front skirt out of the way, extremely nice. Out to the side can get you parallel to the ground, so perfect splits. Towards the back, it can't go out very far because the hip joint bumps into the waist section, but you can, again, unlock and tilt the body forward to get more clearance, which is really smart. Hold your horses because we aren't done unlocking stuff yet. Lift this flap between the legs and that lets you access a dropping hip joint function, letting you drop both and locking them in place. You can even have one higher and one lower if you so wish. To me, that really comes in handy for stuff like kneeling poses. Then there's the thigh swivel. You'll get more in a lateral position. To get the maximum bend at the knee, you have to bring it forward, and due to the design, it's still a little limited, though not bad by any means. Love those moving parts. Back cover for the leg thrusters moves not so much. Rounding off the articulation, the feet can bend forward that much and back that much in neutral. On top of that, the ankle has another joint that lets you rock the foot back and forth, showing off some more lovely armor separation. You have rotation with more clearance on the lateral side than the medial side. Ankle pivot in and out is quite impressive. Here's the Nu doing the stanky leg as a demonstration. And lastly, the toe has a minor bend at one point. Honestly, I don't know what else to say. I'm blown away by the level of posability this kit offers. Hell, I don't think anything else I've built so far can compare. Oh boy, I hope y'all are ready to wrap things up because I sure am. It's been a long one, but given everything I've said about the kit up to now, my score should probably come as no surprise. The build gets an A for amazing. It is to me the gold standard for a model kit building experience. It's fun, it's smart, it doesn't take too much time, and most importantly, everything fits together and works perfectly. This is one real grade I'm positive even Gunpla newcomers will have a blast with. The aesthetics get an A. It's everything I love about the Nu Gundam's design cranked up to 11 with a more realistic appearance and stronger emphasis on detail. Depending on your preference, this might just be the best looking Nu Gundam model kit by Bandai, and even at 1/144th scale, it's got plenty of size to show for it. I'm giving the presentation an A. With a kit that looks this great, one minuscule blemish is there are do very little to diminish the appeal due to the generous use of undergating and impressive part separation. Bandai really put their skills to the test with this one, and it paid off beautifully. The accessories and extras get an A as well. While they're not too crazy in terms of features, I think what this kit absolutely nails is the fundamentals. The weapons hold really well and look incredible at the same time, and I couldn't ask for more. Sure, I do wish there was a left trigger finger hand, and I have some minor gripes with the shield and fin funnels, but I wouldn't say I'm disappointed with any of it. Altogether, what's here is pretty great. And lastly, for articulation, I honestly don't even have to think about this one. Of course it's an A. In fact, I would even give it an S because it's that good, but I haven't worked that into my ratings, so an A will have to do. This is exactly the kind of articulation I like to see in a model kit, and I want to see Bandai do more stuff with this degree of posability. Closing thoughts, the RG Nu Gundam in my opinion goes above and beyond what I expect from Gunpla. This kit just does so much right without falling short in any area, and brings quite a bit of new stuff to the table that really makes it feel unique. If I somehow have not made it abundantly clear yet, I love the Nu Gundam, and if you're as crazy about it as me, I wouldn't sleep on the opportunity to get this. You don't even need the fin funnel effect set, that's just a nice addition to an already fantastic model kit. It is one of the best takes on the Nu Gundam in Gunpla form, and I consider it a real grade essential. And with that said, that's the end of the review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Bye. Hey, it's me, and if you stuck around till the end, thanks again for watching the video. I sincerely apologize for it taking so long as it did. At this point, I've come to accept that making videos as a full-time commitment isn't something I can pull off, so I can never really make any promises as to when the next upload will be, or work on multiple videos at a time. I really wanted to put the time in this one to offer my own take on not just the kit, but the mobile suit itself, since it is my favorite. To that end, I wanted to avoid that issue where it seems like I'm going through the script faster than what it takes to communicate through visuals. The problem, however, is that I just find myself sitting on the script for a while, thinking of what I can say without coming off redundant. It also doesn't help that I'm absolutely terrible at staying focused. Nonetheless, I still do enjoy talking about this hobby a lot, and if you find my content helpful or entertaining in spite of that, then I'm glad to be able to put my voice out there. In any case, remember to smash that like button as it helps out the channel. Comment any thoughts you have on the video and I'll try to get to them when I can. And subscribe to keep up with my most recent uploads whenever they may come. As always, my links are in the description below. Till next time, this is Gundam May Cry, signing out.